Marcus Hill, a devoted father and hard-working software engineer, was stopped and falsely accused in a shocking act of injustice that threatened to destroy his life. Officer Nathan Cole, abusing his authority, planted evidence to frame him, turning trust into betrayal. But with the relentless pursuit of truth led by attorney Sarah Nguyen, Dashcam footage exposed the crime and changed everything. Just listen to how shocking the turn of events in this drama was, and why justice ultimately prevailed. Marcus Hill was driving home after a long week, the hum of his car blending with soft jazz playing on the radio. It was Friday evening in Dallas, and the city lights glimmered ahead. Marcus was tired but content, looking forward to a quiet night with his wife and kids. His mind wandered to dinner with Jasmine and the laughter of his children. He eased his hand on the steering wheel, unaware his evening was about to change forever. Without warning, flashing blue lights appeared in his rearview mirror. Marcus slowed and pulled over to the shoulder. A sharp knock on the driver's side window broke the calm. Officer Nathan Cole leaned down, his face tense and unreadable. "Evening, sir." "License and registration, please," Cole said, his tone brisk. Marcus complied, handing over the requested documents. Cole studied them for a moment, then stepped back slightly. "You match the description of a suspect in a recent case," Cole said. His voice carried an edge of certainty that unsettled Marcus. "I'm going to need to search your vehicle." Marcus blinked. "Excuse me?" His voice was calm but wary. "I haven't done anything wrong." Cole didn't answer directly. Instead, he nodded to himself and moved toward the passenger side of the car. Marcus stepped out, confused and uneasy. The search was swift, almost rehearsed. Cole opened the glove compartment and, after a moment, pulled out a small bag containing a substance Marcus had never seen before. "This was in your glove compartment," Cole said, his tone flat. "Do you know anything about it?" Marcus froze. His mind raced. That's impossible. His car was locked. No one but him had access to it that day. His hands tightened into fists. The words wouldn't come immediately. Anger was rising inside him like a storm. "I swear, I've never seen this," Marcus finally said, his voice low but trembling. "That's not mine." Cole ignored him. "You're under arrest." The words hit Marcus like a blow. Not just the arrest, but the implication that his word meant nothing, that without proof of guilt, he could still be accused and stripped of his freedom. It wasn't simply an encounter with law enforcement. It was a deliberate shattering of trust. The patrol car's siren pierced the night as Marcus was handcuffed. Passers-by stopped to stare. Neighbors from nearby streets began to gather, murmuring in disbelief. Phones came out to record. Marcus's arrest spread across the neighborhood almost instantly, fueled by whispers of injustice. People recognized Marcus as the man who worked late nights and raised his children with care. This didn't make sense to them. Why would Marcus be accused? On the sidewalk, Jasmine arrived, her face pale and tight with worry. She had seen Marcus pulled over from their home 2 blocks away and rushed over. Her voice trembled as she called out to him, but Cole stepped between them, shielding Marcus from his wife's gaze. "You have the right to remain silent," Cole repeated as Marcus was placed in the back of the patrol car. Marcus's heart pounded. The anger inside him was now a roaring fire. He felt not just personal outrage, but a deep sense of betrayal, that the system, which was meant to protect, could so easily turn against him. It wasn't about guilt or innocence anymore. It was about dignity, about trust broken, and about a society that allowed this to happen. By the time the patrol car drove away, the small crowd on the sidewalk was still buzzing. Friends and strangers shared shocked glances, whispering that something was deeply wrong. Marcus didn't know then that the injustice he faced was only the beginning. That night was not just about an arrest. It was about a turning point, a spark that would ignite a fight for truth far larger than he could yet imagine. Inside the small, stark interrogation room, Marcus Hill sat on the edge of a steel chair. His hands rested tensely on his knees. The air smelled faintly of disinfectant and something metallic. The hum of the fluorescent light above was relentless, almost mocking. Across from him, Officer Nathan Cole leaned forward, eyes fixed on Marcus with a quiet, unrelenting intensity. "You need to tell me the truth, Mr. Hill," Cole said, voice clipped and cold. "How did this end up in your car?" Marcus swallowed hard. His throat felt tight. "I already told you. I don't know." "That's not mine. I swear." His voice cracked under the weight of exhaustion and frustration. Cole ignored the plea and leaned back, folding his arms. "You know this looks bad. You've got two choices: admit it or face the charges." The words cut deeper than Marcus expected. It wasn't the threat of charges that hurt most. It was the complete refusal to hear him, the refusal to even consider his side as valid. The reality was sinking in. No matter how much he insisted on his innocence, the system was not built to listen. The stress pressed down on Marcus like an invisible weight. His mind raced with the implications. At work, his team knew he had been pulled in for questioning. Rumors were already spreading. His manager had called him twice. The possibility of losing his job was real. His savings could be drained defending himself. His reputation, painstakingly built over years, could be destroyed overnight. But the deepest wound was personal. Outside the police station, Jasmine sat on a cold bench. She clutched her phone in her hands and stared at the ground, tears sliding silently down her cheeks. Every so often, she glanced up at the station doors, searching for Marcus. Friends had called. Neighbors had stopped by. Her voice was shaky when she spoke to them, trying to explain, to defend Marcus, but the knot in her chest was growing tighter with every passing minute. Back in the interrogation room, Marcus closed his eyes. He remembered watching news reports over the years, countless stories of people who had been accused and had no chance to prove their innocence. Black drivers accused of crimes they did not commit, cars searched without cause, evidence manipulated, cases swept under the rug. For Marcus, it wasn't hard to connect the dots. This was no random mistake. This was part of a deeper pattern, systemic abuse that stripped people of dignity and trust. That thought filled Marcus with despair. But there was also another feeling, a burning rage. Rage at being treated not as a citizen, but as a suspect by default. Rage that someone could take away his freedom without a shred of proof and without listening to him. Rage at a system that seemed designed to keep people like him powerless. His despair deepened later that afternoon when he was finally able to speak with the district attorney's office. The meeting was short, matter of fact. "We can proceed with charges," the DA said, her voice clinical, "unless we have concrete proof showing these items were not yours." The words hit Marcus harder than any accusation could. No matter how certain he was of his innocence, it was up to him to prove something that should never have happened in the first place. It felt like a cruel twist of fate, a test he had not asked for, without rules in his favor. When Marcus stepped out of the building later that night, the sky was dark and the streets quiet. Jasmine was still waiting for him, her face etched with worry. He looked at her and knew that this pain was not just his alone, it was theirs. Every moment ahead would be a struggle. And deep inside, Marcus understood one truth. The fight to prove his innocence would not be simple. The system was stacked against him. But somewhere beneath the exhaustion and hurt, a spark of defiance began to flicker. Marcus Hill knew he could not give up. Not now. Not after everything he had endured. The weight of injustice was heavy on his shoulders, but in that weight there was also a stubborn resolve. If the system was working against him, he would find another way. That's when Sarah Nguyen stepped in. A civil rights attorney known for taking difficult cases, Sarah had a reputation for persistence. She listened to Marcus's story with quiet determination, her brows furrowed in concentration. "We're going to fight this," she said firmly. "The truth is going to come out." Sarah began with a simple but powerful request: access to every piece of evidence related to Marcus's arrest. The police department was slow to respond. Weeks passed with bureaucratic delays and evasive answers. Marcus sat through hours of phone calls and meetings, each one testing his patience. Yet Sarah never wavered. She believed the truth was there, somewhere in the records, somewhere in the data. One late evening, Sarah called Marcus with a single sentence. "We found it." Marcus rushed to her office, heart pounding. On her computer screen was a video file marked Dallas PD, traffic stop, case number 4721. It was dashcam footage from Officer Cole's vehicle. Sarah played it. The grainy video showed the evening of Marcus's arrest. At first, it looked like a routine stop, headlights cutting through the darkness, voices speaking in tones Marcus recognized all too well. Then Sarah paused the video, the moment replayed in slow motion. Marcus saw it clearly. Before he was told to step out of his car, Officer Cole leaned forward and opened the glove compartment. Then, Cole's hand moved in a way that Marcus could only interpret as placing something inside. Marcus's breath caught. His fingers trembled. This proves it," Marcus said quietly, staring at the screen. His voice was a mix of disbelief and relief. The injustice was no longer just his word against Cole's. It was recorded evidence, undeniable proof of what had happened. Sarah looked at him steadily. "This changes everything." "We file charges. We make sure this goes public." The next days were a blur. Sarah filed official charges against Officer Cole for evidence tampering and misconduct. Marcus's story was picked up by a local journalist, and soon after, by national news. Clips of the dashcam footage circulated across social media. Hashtags demanding justice trended, and strangers began sending messages of support to Marcus and his family. Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in weeks: hope. The crowd of voices rallying behind him was growing louder. People who had never met him were calling for change. His fight had become something larger, a stand against a system that had let too many people down. For the first time since that Friday evening, Marcus allowed himself to breathe without tension. Hope replaced the heavy pain he had carried. There was still a long road ahead: trials, hearings, questions that would be asked over and over. But now Marcus had something powerful: proof. One night, sitting with Jasmine on their porch, Marcus showed her the video again. She didn't need words. The look in her eyes said it all: pain, disbelief, and a growing belief that the truth could win. "This isn't just about me," Marcus told her quietly. "It's about making sure it doesn't happen to anyone else." Jasmine took his hand. "Then we fight," she said. And Marcus knew she was right. The battle was far from over, but for the first time he had a weapon forged from truth, and with it, hope became their strongest shield. The moment the Dashcam footage became public, Officer Nathan Cole was placed on immediate suspension. The case against him moved quickly, shifting from whispers in the news to a full-scale legal battle. Charges of evidence tampering and obstruction of justice were filed, and what began as Marcus Hill's personal fight transformed into something far greater, a landmark trial that drew national attention. Inside the courtroom, Marcus sat with calm determination. His suit was simple but crisp. Beside him, Sarah Nguyen gave a quiet nod of encouragement. Marcus knew the eyes of the nation were on him. He had spent weeks preparing, not only to defend himself, but to speak for those who had been denied a voice. When the day came for Marcus to testify, the room was tense. Reporters filled the seats, cameras pointed toward the stand, and the public gallery overflowed with supporters. Marcus stood before the jury and recounted every detail of that night: the pullover, the accusation, the humiliation, the frustration, and the fear. He spoke not only of the event itself, but of the weight it carried, the strain on his family, the threat to his livelihood, and the erosion of trust in the system. His voice was steady, his words deliberate. There was no anger now, only resolve. "This was never just about me," Marcus told the court. "It was about protecting every citizen's right to be treated fairly. Justice must be more than a word. It must be a promise kept." The jury deliberated for 2 days. Outside the courthouse, Marcus waited in quiet anticipation with Jasmine and Sarah. Every conversation, every headline felt like a test of endurance. Finally, the moment came. The judge called the court to order, and the foreperson of the jury rose. "We find the defendant guilty on all counts," the voice declared. A wave of relief swept over Marcus. Jasmine's hand found his, her grip firm and unshakable. Marcus exhaled deeply, feeling years of pain begin to lift. Officer Cole was sentenced to prison. The court's decision sent shockwaves through the legal system. The Dallas Police Department launched a full-scale review of similar cases, uncovering patterns that called for urgent reform. What started as one man's fight had grown into a movement. For Marcus, the trial was not the end. It was the beginning of a new mission. He founded a non-profit dedicated to fighting wrongful convictions and ensuring police accountability. His purpose had shifted, from proving his own innocence to protecting the rights of countless others. Months later, Marcus stood at the courthouse steps before a crowd of hundreds. Reporters, supporters, and ordinary citizens had gathered to witness the moment. The air was filled with energy, a blend of triumph and resolve. Marcus stepped forward, his voice carrying over the crowd. "Justice isn't just about catching the guilty. It's about making sure the innocent are protected," he said. "If one man's truth can bring down injustice, then every voice matters." A hush fell over the crowd before it erupted into applause. Phones raised in the air recorded the moment, and social media lit up with images of Marcus speaking. His words became more than a personal victory. They became a rallying cry. For Marcus, the applause was not about recognition. It was about proof that change was possible, that truth had power, and that the system could be challenged. That day, Marcus's story stopped being just the story of a wrongful accusation. It became a testament to courage and the strength of conviction. It became a symbol that even in the face of injustice, one person's fight could inspire a movement. As the crowd began to disperse, Jasmine took his hand and smiled. Marcus looked out at the city before him, the courthouse steps now echoing with voices calling for change. He knew the road ahead was long, but in that moment, surrounded by supporters and lifted by the truth, Marcus Hill felt something he hadn't felt in months: hope. Hope not just for himself, but for every person who had ever been silenced.